The Fever are back and finally fully healthy, especially Caitlin Clark.
There's definitely days where I still sometimes feel sore, but like a lot of athletes that have gone through injury know it's like the mental battle. It's like your body's fine, you put in the work, and like it's just kind of getting over that mental hurdle. So I think there's definitely still days where I experience a little bit of a mental block, but I know I'm doing every single thing I can to be healthy, and that's why I've been healthy and why I will remain healthy as well.
What is up, basketball family? It is your boy Dre Fiver back inside the lab here at Dre Hoops. And let me tell you, I have had to pick my jaw up off the floor about 3 times today. We all knew the Indiana Fever were going to come into the 2026 season with a chip on their shoulder, but nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody, was prepared for the absolute nuke of a warning shot this team just fired across the bow of the entire Wnba. If you thought last season was a movie, you better grab your popcorn right now, because the training camp footage leaking out of Indianapolis is genuinely shocking. We are talking about no-look passes that straight up defy the laws of physics, deep threes dropping effortlessly like they are simple warm-up layups, and a roster that looks absolutely nothing like the bruised and battered squad that limped through the trenches of 2025. In just the first few days of camp, a massive 12 different storylines have dropped, but there is one specific piece of footage at the very end of this that is going to completely shatter and rewrite how you view Indiana's championship odds this season. Do not go anywhere, because you need to see this. Listen, 8 months off the basketball floor is an absolute eternity in the professional sports world. Coming into the 2026 training camp, the loudest whispers and the real questions weren't even about whether Caitlin Clark's ankle had healed up right. We knew the medical staff would handle that. The real, terrifying question for Fever fans was whether she would still possess that supernatural split-second processing speed, that god-tier ability to read a defense and manipulate it before the opponent even realizes they've been played. That is what made her borderline impossible to guard in the first place. I've seen it 100 times in this league. Players come back from an extended absence and something is just subtly, agonizingly off. The timing is slightly delayed, the swagger is dialed back, and that predatory instinct to throw a laser-guided pass a split second before the window even opens is just gone. But Caitlin Clark didn't even wait for the doors of training camp to open to put those doubts in a body bag. Back in March, she hopped on a flight to Puerto Rico with Team USA for the FIBA World Cup qualifiers. And what did she do? She casually walked out there and won MVP of the entire tournament. She didn't do it by playing it safe or easing back into the rotation. She did it by being the undisputed most lethal player on the hardwood against elite international defenders who had spent months in the film room preparing specifically for her. Coach Stephanie White, who was right there on the Team USA staff, watched this domination live and in person. White confirmed that Clark's timing looked flawlessly sharp and that she was letting the game come to her in a way that you simply cannot fake during empty gym solo rehab workouts. My personal take, I honestly expected a little bit of rust. I thought maybe we'd see a hesitant Caitlin for the first few weeks. I was dead wrong. She is 100% cleared, 0 restrictions, and she told the media flat out, I'm 100% go. The franchise's master plan isn't to wrap her in bubble wrap, it's to strategically manage her minutes across a grueling 44-game slate, so she remains an absolute weapon of mass destruction when the playoffs roll around in October.
Would not be surprising. 13 of 16 so far from 3 for Team USA. And here we go, Caitlin Clark, right on cue. Oh, she thought that was an offensive foul. Let's take another look on the other end. She thought it was an offensive foul when she heard.
Now, let's talk about the money and the loyalty, because the front office masterclass that just went down in Indiana deserves its own documentary. Let's start with Kelsey Mitchell. The absolute bucket getter just entered her 9th season with the Fever. And let's be entirely real, she could have walked, she could have packed her bags and commanded a king's ransom anywhere in the country. Coming off a spectacular All-WNBA first team selection, averaging over 20 points a game, and finishing 5th in the MVP voting, she had every single reason to test the open market. When 2025 ended, she was sitting in rarefied air, 2nd all-time in franchise scoring, 1st in points per game, and 1st in threes made. So what did she do? She signed a 1-year Supermax deal worth a staggering $1.4 million, cementing herself as the first player in Fever history to sign a $1 million contract. But here is the kicker, and this is why I love this team. When asked about the historic bag she just secured, the money wasn't even the first thing out of her mouth. She talked about the locker room. She talked about the family vibes. She looked the cameras in the eye and said her relationships with Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark, Lexi Hull, and Sophie Cunningham were simply too strong to walk away from. Clark herself called bringing Mitchell back priority number 1. And if you know hoops, you know why. Mitchell's blinding downhill speed forces entire defenses to collapse in the paint, which magically opens up the perimeter for Clark. Conversely, when defenses panic and chase Clark off screens, it gives Mitchell a wide open runway to the rim. It is a terrifying, unguardable paradox for the rest of the league.
I mean, she's huge. I don't think there's a faster player in the league with the ball than Kelsey Mitchell. I don't think there's a scarier player in the league to guard one-on-one than Kelsey Mitchell. And, for us, putting her in position to do what she does best so that she doesn't have to think about it, she can just do it, was a priority. And Kelsey and Aaliyah really put us on their shoulders, and they elevated us to that next level. And Kelsey is a player that you want her to reach the pinnacle. She has been through the highs and the lows of this franchise. She has loved this game and treated this game with so much respect. I remember when she was a freshman in college and I was calling her games, just watching the way that she worked in pregame. And she loves basketball, and she's a pro's pro. And so, we want to get one for her.
And if you thought Mitchell's contract was a flex, wait until you hear what they did with Aaliyah Boston. The Fever backed up the Brinks truck and signed Boston to the biggest contract in the history of the Wnba. We are talking about a 4-year deal that instantly bumps her salary to $1 million this season, totaling $6.3 million over 4 years. Guys, she is only 24 years old. Let that sink in. This isn't a team paying for past legacy. This is a franchise locking down a generational anchor who hasn't even begun to scratch the surface of her ultimate ceiling. What makes Boston worth that astronomical mountain of cash isn't necessarily the flashy crossovers. It's the gritty, punishing grunt work. She defends multiple positions. She absorbs contact like a brick wall. She catches absolutely any wild pass thrown into her orbit, and she keeps the entire operation from crumbling in the fourth quarter. Clark hit the nail on the head when she said there is nobody more deserving. When you have an anchor like Boston holding down the paint, it gives a point guard like Clark the supreme confidence to push the pace at a breakneck speed and fire risky passes into heavy traffic, knowing her front court general is going to clean it up. Boston didn't even want to test the waters. She told her agent to get it done because she genuinely loves the staff and the vibe in Indy. If Boston develops that three-point shot everyone is buzzing about, it's game over for the league. You literally will not be able to guard them.
First epic extension in WNBA history. You don't play for money, but it's nice to have it. What's your reaction to that, and obviously still staying here with the Fever?
Yeah, I was super blessed. God is great, man. Just to be here, be with the Fever, get that extension. I'm super excited about it. The staff is super excited, and I feel like this is where I'm at right now. Yeah.
When did the negotiations on that extension begin? Was it as soon as the CBA was finalized, or a little bit once free agency settled down?
Yeah, pretty much once CBA was finalized, my agent handled all that. I just sit back, watch a good show, and wait for him to call me.
But the loyalty train didn't stop there. Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham both had serious, undeniable market value heading into this offseason. Hull was out here shooting 40% from downtown over the last 2 seasons and locking up positions 2 through 4. Cunningham shot 43% from deep during key stretches of 2025 and had been very vocal about wanting long-term financial security. Every general manager in the league had their phone numbers ready, but they both came right back to the Fever. Hull didn't even make a massive spectacle of it. She just dropped a TikTok with Clark at the Masters and simply stated, "This is home." Cunningham swallowed her desire for a massive multi-year deal and signed a 1-year pact because she looks around that locker room and genuinely believes they are hoisting a championship trophy in 2026. Picture the nightmare scenario for opposing coaches. Clark brings the ball up. Mitchell is hovering on the left wing. Hull is parked on the right. Cunningham is deadly in the corner, and Boston is sitting at the elbow. If you dare to collapse on a Clark drive, you're leaving a 40% sniper wide open. It is an impossible, mathematically devastating choice for a defense. Now, let me tell you my absolute favorite part of this offseason, because the Fever didn't just re-sign their shooters. They went out and got some absolute enforcers. Monique Billings checks every single hyper-specific box Indiana needed in a power forward. They needed someone who could sprint the floor neck and neck with Clark, stay the hell out of the paint so Boston could operate, snatch offensive boards, and be a legitimate threat from outside. Billings is that player. She shot 81% at the rim last year. When Clark hits her rolling off a screen, the possession is over. It's 2 points. Plus, she already has built-in chemistry with Mitchell from the unrivaled league and with Clark from Team USA. There's zero learning curve here, which is usually the poison that ruins free agent signings in their first month. But if Billings is the finesse, Myisha Hines-Allen is the absolute hammer. Let's be brutally honest for a second, the 2025 Fever got punked when the playoffs got physical. Against the Las Vegas Aces, when the refs swallowed their whistles and the game turned into a cage match, Indiana didn't have anyone willing to throw an elbow back. Hines-Allen directly cures that sickness. She is one of the most physically imposing, terrifying players in the association. She doesn't just absorb contact, she actively hunts for it. When opposing post players lean on her, they feel it the next morning. Coach White praised her vocal, elite communication on defense, meaning she is the one organizing the paint and calling out screens before they materialize. The brilliance of this signing is that it shields Aaliyah Boston from getting battered to a pulp for 38 minutes a night. By the time the fourth quarter of a playoff game rolls around, Boston is going to have fresh legs. The 2025 Fever had talent. The 2026 Fever have talent, and they have goons who will protect that talent. I absolutely love it. And of course, because it's the WNBA, the internet tried to manufacture drama on day one. If you watched college hoops over the last few years, you know the blood feud between Iowa and South Carolina was legendary. So when Indiana drafted Raven Johnson, Twitter trolls immediately started rubbing their hands together. A single, out-of-context training camp clip showed Johnson seemingly ignoring a high five from Clark, and the internet completely lost its mind. People who have never played a competitive team sport in their lives were writing full thesis papers on a locker room crisis. Aaliyah Boston actually had to jump on her podcast to laugh it off, pointing out the hilarious reality that fans hold on to beef way longer than the actual athletes do. Both Clark and Johnson addressed it, squashed it, and moved in. What Raven Johnson actually brings to the table is terrifying perimeter defense. She averaged 1.5 steals a game while barely fouling in college. She is going to harass opposing point guards for 94 feet without putting them on the free throw line. Speaking of the draft, if you thought taking Justine Pissot at 25th overall was just a developmental flyer, you need to wake up. This girl is 6'4" with a wingspan measured around 7 feet. Analysts are literally comparing her physical dimensions to Breanna Stewart. Let me repeat that. Breanna Stewart dimensions. She is a 6'4" sniper who can shoot directly over the top of almost any perimeter defender in the league. But the camp footage that has the coaching staff salivating is her defense. She is using that massive wingspan to completely disrupt passing lanes and contest shots at the rim in ways a 22-year-old rookie shouldn't know how to do yet. Coach White has a serious luxury problem on her hands. Do you bring the kid along slowly, or do you just unleash the 6'4" Kraken right out of the gate? All of this offensive firepower is great, but Coach Stephanie White walked into Indianapolis with one demanding number burned into her brain: top 3. That is the defensive rating she is demanding this year. She isn't treating it as a cute little motivational goal. It is the absolute baseline expectation. She told the media point blank, "We want to be a bear on the defensive end of the floor." Remember, this is a coach who orchestrated the #1 overall defense in Connecticut. The Fever ranked 7th last year. Jumping to the top 3 is a monumental task, but White is drilling transition defense relentlessly. When you have Hines-Allen, Billings, and Johnson communicating and flying around the court, suddenly pushing the pace doesn't just result in fast break points. It creates absolute chaos on defense that Clark's visionary passing will feast on. Which brings us to the footage that sent the internet into a complete meltdown. The clips started circulating a few days ago, and people had to rewind them just to process what they were seeing. The no-look passes are back. And I don't mean safe, conservative little dump-offs. I'm talking about Clark firing a scorching, one-handed, no-look bullet through heavy traffic directly to Myisha Hines-Allen, who looked genuinely stunned that the ball even found her hands before putting it in the hoop. That tells you everything you need to know. Clark was draining threes off the dribble, off screens, with hands right in her face, 5 consecutive deep shots from the wing while rocking her exclusive Kobe Piates. She is fully operational. She has taken an isolating, humbling injury and used it to reconstruct her body for the long haul. When she is on the floor, she is giving 100% in terrifying intentional bursts. So let's be entirely honest about where the Indiana Fever stand right now. Paper rosters don't raise banners, but look at the reality. Clark is healthy, angry, and playing at an MVP level. Boston is locked in with historic money. Mitchell is fresh off a career year. The spacing is lethal, and the front court has finally added the muscle and the grit required to survive a bloody WNBA playoff series. The thin, exhausted roster that collapsed against Vegas last October does not exist anymore. When reporters put a microphone in Caitlin Clark's face this week, she didn't mince her words. She looked right at them and said, "I think we're going to be the favorite to win it all." Guys, you don't say that out loud in this league unless you absolutely know what is brewing behind closed doors. That is a player deliberately setting the psychological tone for the entire season. The Indiana Fever are built completely different this year, and the rest of the WNBA is going to feel it the second they step on the floor. What do you guys think? Was signing Maisha Hines-Allen the missing piece of the puzzle? Ooh. Or is Aaliyah Boston's record-breaking extension the best move the Indiana Fever made this offseason? Let me know down in the comments below. I want to hear your takes. Do not forget to absolutely smash that like button, subscribe to Dre Hoops, and turn on all those bell notifications so you never miss a single update. Because this team is going to be pure box office from now until October. Click the video on your screen right now for more Hoops breakdowns, and I will see you in the next one.